Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov to Harrison and his family, and welcome. It's great to have everyone here for a simcha, for a happy occasion. There's an old story that we haven't told yet this week, so maybe it's time to remind ourselves of it. Once upon a time there lived Sir Moses Montefiore. Moshe Chaim is how they called him. He was a great financier, a great philanthropist. He was Sheriff of London for a time. He was history's longest-serving chair of the Board of Deputies of British Jews. He was a very successful banker, and when he retired, he devoted the rest of his life to giving tzedakah, charity. Once upon a time, someone asked him, and in at least one version of the story, it was his friend Queen Victoria, "How much are you worth?" He thought about it for a few minutes, did some calculations in his head, and he gave a sum in the hundreds of thousands of pounds. The questioner, whether it was the Queen or whoever it was, said, "Come on, Sir Moses, I know for a fact your holdings are many times over more than that." "Oh," said Sir Moses, "I thought you wanted to know how much I'm worth. You want to know what my holdings are. I'm sorry, I told you how much I'm worth, the amount of tzedakah, the amount of charitable donations that I've given over my lifetime. That is how much I'm worth." It's an important story for us to keep in mind because in our world we get distracted by such a thing as a high net worth individual. High net worth individual, not necessarily in Sir Moses' terms, although they could potentially be big Balei Tzedakah, major philanthropists themselves. But generally in our society, we value how much people have, not necessarily how much they give, which on one hand seems fine. What's the problem? So, someone has a lot of stocks, holdings, companies, whatever. Here's one problem. Anyone heard of a guy named Sam Bankman-Fried? His bar mitzvah was not too long ago. He's 30 now. He was a math whiz. He went to MIT. His brother worked on Wall Street. And he decided to start a company called FTX that would trade cryptocurrencies. It was incorporated in Antigua, headquartered in the Bahamas. Sounds legit, right? 2 weeks ago, when we were gathering for Parshas Lech Lecha and talking about names, and Avram's name changed to Avraham, remember that? This guy Sam was worth, so they said, on paper, $15 billion. Let me confess something to you. I cannot count to 15 billion. If I had to write out 15 billion, I would Google how many zeros in 15 billion. $15 billion. But wait, plot twist. Now it's 2 weeks down the road. Parshas Chayei Sarah. We're still here in Shul. Our friend Sam now is worth zero because his company FTX collapsed, and with it some 130 other companies that he started, all kaput, gone with the wind. I certainly hope he put his bar mitzvah money in a savings account. How does this even happen? Just like, I don't know, 15 billion, I barely got through high school math. I don't know how you make billions turn into zero. 100 years ago, a rabbi was once walking through a park. It was actually the Prater Park in Vienna, which has a very famous Ferris wheel. And this rabbi stood and gazed at the Ferris wheel for a long time. And after a long time reflecting on it, he explained to one of his companions, the fellow at the very top of the Ferris wheel is so high up, he can't see anyone else. And just when he's at the highest point, that's the beginning of his downward journey. And the fellow at the very bottom of the wheel, he's got nowhere to go but up. And that is how it goes in life, said the rabbi. And so it goes when we value someone's worth or high net worth by what they have rather than what they give. The Torah portion of Chayei Sarah that we just heard read so beautifully, however, gives us another way to look at things, another perspective. Maybe value, worth, is not what we have, but what we give, what we do. That's the point Sir Moses, Moshe Chaim Montefiore, wanted us to think about. He wanted us to say, I am part of something larger than myself. Avraham Avinu, Abraham, our patriarch, is getting old at the beginning of this week's Torah portion. His wife Sarah has passed away, and he has to purchase a burial place for her and bury her and mourn her. Then his attention turns to his son Isaac, who's also not getting any younger, and it's time, or maybe even past time, for him to get married. Avraham has a servant named Eliezer, who is a faithful and trustworthy and reliable guy. Avraham gives him instructions to venture out to Haran, where Avraham comes from, and look for a shidduch, a mate. Look for a wife for his son Isaac. He gives him very particular instructions. Make sure you find someone from my kinsmen. Make sure she's a very kind person. Kindness is key. And here's how you might be able to identify such a person. Okay, the instructions are given. The servant ventures out on the mission, and I'm not spoiling it for you. You already read it. He finds Rivka, Rebecca. Both families agree that this match is a good match. They get married, and Shalom al Yisrael. Okay, Yisrael is born in next week's parsha. We'll get to that. Here's the point. When the servant Eliezer arrives at the house of Rivka's family to discuss this important match, he says these words. He says, Eved Avraham Anochi. I am a servant of Abraham. I am a servant of Abraham. Eliezer's not coming on this mission, not carrying this out for himself, for his own benefit. It could be the opposite is true. He says, I am part of something larger than myself. Eliezer's doing what he's doing because he represents something, not just his own interests, but his master, Abraham. He represents the one who sent him, the one who gave him power of attorney, plenipotentiary, which means Eliezer could make agreements in Avraham's place, representing him. He was, as the Torah says, Moshe b'chol asher lo, says at the beginning of chapter 24, where Avraham administers an oath and makes Eliezer his sworn representative. Eliezer is the elder of the household who controls all that there is. Eved Avraham Anochi. I am the servant of Abraham, he says, and he achieves greatness. He fulfills his mission, legendary status. We're still talking about him all these thousands of years later, not because of what he had, which was nothing, but because of what he did, which was everything he was asked. Eved Avraham Anochi. I am the servant of Abraham. He says, I am part of something larger than myself. I step up. I take responsibility. I rise to the challenge. I use all my skills and talents to fulfill my mission in life. Interesting. There are two other figures who use the term Anochi in the Torah instead of Ani, which is the simple form of the Hebrew pronoun for I. Two others say Anochi. Who are they? Pharaoh. Pharaoh says Anochi because it indicates omnipotence, all-powerfulness, right? And he thinks he's got that. Also, God uses it in the very beginning of the Ten Commandments. In fact, it's the first word of the first of the Ten Commandments. We keep it posted in the shul right over the ark, right over here, to remind ourselves of what God told us at Mount Sinai. The word Anochi, Rabbi Nehemiah explains in Psikta de Rav Kahana, is actually an Egyptian word. God spoke this word in Egyptian to us because the Jewish people had just come out of Egypt after living there for 210 years, and that's a word we recognized. If we lived in Canada for 210 years and God started speaking to us in Yiddish or Ladino or Aramaic, we'd all go, what was that? What's he saying? You understand what he said? God spoke to us then, starting with a word that we recognized, an Egyptian term. So maybe even Eliezer was alluding to this idea, because Avraham's project was to spread the belief in one God, and as his faithful servant, as he's described, and as we see, Eliezer believed wholeheartedly and participated with his full self in Avraham's campaign to get the world to recognize one God. So given all this, what better parsha could there possibly be to celebrate a bar mitzvah? That's why we're thrilled to have Harrison with us this Shabbos, celebrating becoming a bar mitzvah, a son of the mitzvahs, a servant of the Jewish people and of God, taking on responsibility for doing his part in the community. We're thrilled to have his parents with us, his grandparents, all of whom have done so much, given so much of themselves, and continue to do so for our community for decades already, generations, aunts, uncles, cousins, family, the extended KST family, In light of this, we should all really be celebrating our own bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, b'nei mitzvah, children of the mitzvahs, which is what we are. That should enable us also to say, Eved Avraham Anochi, I am a servant of Abraham. What we have is not ours so much as we're part of an inheritance that's so much larger than any one of us could be, or even all of us together. What we're doing is giving our best effort to be part of the Jewish people's continuing, unfolding history, be part of the continuation of Avraham's original mission to bring godliness into the world, to be a strong and solid and reliable link in the chain. What's the best way for us to do that? By realizing that what we do, rather than what we have, is what's truly valuable and enduring. What do I have? A nice house, a nice car, a cottage, another nice car, a big portfolio. Good. Remember the Bitcoin guy. Remember the Ferris wheel in Vienna. Easy come, easy go. Ask the Bitcoin guy if you don't believe me. What am I worth? That's a different question. That's a Montefiore question. What I'm worth is what I do for others, what I do for the community, what I do for God. Am I behaving as if I'm part of something larger than myself? We ask ourselves, what did I do to help the project this week? How many times did I go to Minyan this week? I'll tell you how many times Harrison came to Shul in the mornings in the past few weeks and put on tefillin and daven with the Minyan. Not to embarrass anyone, but it's more times than some people who are over bar mitzvah. How much did I learn this week? What questions did I ask in the class? How much time and effort did I take to help another person who needed my help? If I ask myself, Eved Avraham Anochi, I'm the servant of Abraham. I've been given a mission. I've been entrusted with the power to make long-lasting decisions and take actions that will affect future generations on the small scale, on the large scale. How did I do? Did I turn my phone off before Shabbos? Not silent or vibrate, halavai that for some people. But did I turn my phone off before Shabbos? Because everyone I want to talk to on Shabbat is either God, or the people at the Kiddush, or the people at the Shabbos table sitting with me. So I don't even need a phone. Did I pay up my pledge to the Shul's Yom Kippur appeal? Wait a second. Did I even make a pledge? Uh-oh. Better get right on that after Shabbos. Did I open a sefer of some kind of book of Jewish wisdom this week, not this month or this year, but this week, and learn something new that I never knew or thought of before? Did I daven today? Did I acknowledge the oneness of God as Abraham taught us to do? Did I thank God, the creator and sustainer of all, before I took a bite of food? Did I realize for just a moment how fortunate, how blessed I am to have all that I have, health, safety, sustenance, and actually articulate that thanks with a few words of blessing? Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Blessed are you, God, sovereign of the universe. There are so many distractions. It's true. But there are so many opportunities to do things for others, to do things for the community, the Kehillah, to answer the call, to make God's name known throughout the world. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, God is our God, God is one. A lot of distractions, a lot of very fun ways to waste our time. It's true. But there are even more good ways, 613 of them, as a matter of fact, the number of mitzvahs, so many good ways to make the most of every day of our lives, every moment, by being who we are and being focused not on what we can get, but what we can give. So the best time to dedicate yourself to this is when you become a bar or bat mitzvah. But who's got that kind of luck today? Harrison. And the rest of us, maybe it's already perhaps a few years past our bar mitzvah already, our b'nei mitzvah. Well, this is the second best day to dedicate ourselves today. Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, and Mazel Tov.